Erev Tov. We are on Masechet Megillah Daf Amud Aleph 5A1. We are by the first line where it says Amar Rav. Rav says, Megillah bizmana konin ota afilu biyachid. So when we're talking about the Megillah in the proper time, which is going to be on the 14th, you're going to read it even lechatechila, even biyachid. Why? Because this is the time you dalit. You read it afilu biyachid. Shelo bizmana, if it's not the proper time, which means that we're talking about the kfarim hamakdimim liyom haknisa. We're talking about villagers that they're already doing it on the Monday and Thursday. Ba'asara, you need 10 people. Why are you going to do it in front of 10 people? In order to come and to be mefarsem the nes. Okay? Ravasi, Amar, Ravasi comes and he's going to say, he argues on that which we just said, and he says, Ben mizmana ben shelo mizmana ba'asara. Whether you want to do it in the proper time or not in the proper time, you always need 10 people. Why do you need 10 people? Pirsu menisa. That's what he says. So here it says, obviously, we're talking about mitzvah lechatechila, but b'diavad, even if you didn't find the 10 people, you could still read it biyachid. Okay, that's very, very important. The Mishnah Berurah and the Chazon Ish explain in Shitat Rashi, the Rav and Ravasi are arguing to do it lechatechila, but b'diavad, you could do it shelo bizmana, right? You could do it shelo bizmana, even biyachid. Okay, fine. Next, Hava Uvda. There was a case. There was a story. V'chash leRav lehad Ravasi. And there was a story that Purim fell in the proper time, and Rav was choshesh to the Shita of Rav Asi, and he gathered together 10 people to hear the Megillah, even though it was in the proper time. Now, we just said if it was the proper time, right? We just said that technically you could do it by yourself. No, you always need 10 people. Why? That's what we just held. Okay? Very good. Next. Omi amar Rav Hachi. Does Rav actually say this? Right? Does Rav actually say that Kriyat Megillah Shelo Bizmana needs 10 people? Says Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shemuel bar Shilat, in the name of Rav. Purim shechal liot b'Shabbat. If Purim falls out on Shabbat. Now we know, when do you read it if it falls out on Shabbat? So Friday. Erev Shabbat Zmanam. We read it on Friday. So Erev Shabbat Zmanam. Shabbat Zmanam. But 1 second, it's not Friday. The real time is Shabbat. It's only because you have force majeure that you can't do it on Shabbat. But really, the real time is Shabbat. It's not Friday. Elalav, but rather, what does it mean? Shelo bizmanam, kizmanam. What does it mean? It's not the proper time. It's like the proper time. Mazmanam, just like the proper time, you could do it afilu biyachid. Av shelo bizmanam, afilu biyachid. Even if it's not going to be bizmanam, you could do it biyachid. So you see from here, the Rav holds that even kriya shelo bizmanam, which means even if it's not going to be the proper time, you could still do it biyachid. Why does he say that you need 10 people? You don't need 10 people. If you could do it biyachid. So says the Gemara, no. We're talking about to do with Mikra Megillah, and they were talking about that you have 10 people. So what does it mean when we say that Erev Shabbat is the time? This comes to exclude Rebbe. The Rebbe says, since the cities were already pushed from its proper time, right? So then what happens? You're going to put it back to the Yom HaKnisa. You're not going to do it on Friday. You're going to do it on Thursday, because once it was already pushed back, you push it back to Thursday. So it comes to teach you the Erev Shabbat Zmanamu. That Erev Shabbat is the Zman for the Kriya, and we're not going to be Magdimim until Yom HaKnisa. Okay? Fine. We are now on the Mishnah. Until here, everyone clear? Ezoid Gedolah. What is a big city? So this is the Mishnah. Mishnah on Amud Aleph. What is considered a big city? If you have 10 batlanim, okay? Batlanim are, as we already mentioned before, there are 10 people that they're going to be ready in order to always have tefillah b'tzibur. That's called asara batlanim. Sometimes we translate it as asara batlanim, which are basically people that are going to be there for always learning Torah. Here it's the tefillah b'tzibur. That's what we said. It's the Gemara, right? He says over here. There's a whole different things, but okay, fine. Okay. Now it says, right, pachot mikan, less than this, hareze kfar. So less than asara batlanim, it's a village. You could have a huge city, but if you don't have 10 people ready, it's a little village. Okay, exactly, little village. Yeah, be'elu amru, right? On these times we said magdimin, velo me'achrin. So to do it, kriyat Megillah, we're going to be magdim, velo me'achrin. We're not going to do it later. Aval zman atzeh kohanim. But the time of a Tzeh Kohanim Tisha B'Av, the Chagiga ve'Akel, מאחרים לא מקדימים. So if it's to do with Mikra Megillah, you always do before. But to do with everything else, whether we're talking about Atzeh Kohanim, that the Kohanim bring, Tisha B'Av, Chagiga, Hakel, all these things, we always push it off. We don't bring it earlier, we push it off. Then it says in the Mishnah, even though we said that we're going to be makdimin and lo me'achrin, mutarim be'esped u'ta'anid. So therefore, which means that even though we just said that you're allowed to read the Megillah earlier, but on the day that you read the Megillah earlier, you're still allowed to do hesped and ta'anit, eulogy and ta'aniot, and matanot levyonim. You're going to be in Tzedchovah, matanot levyonim. As the Mishnah, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, ematai, when did they come and they institute that the kfarim, that the villagers can come in and they do it in the Yom HaKnisa? Makom shenechnasim b'sheni Chamishi. Makom shenechnasim lo b'sheni Chamishi. But if they don't come in on the Mondays and Thursdays, and korinota ela bizmana, you're only going to read it in the proper time. Okay? So says the Gemara. We're on the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Tana asara batlanim shebet HaKnesset. We're talking about the 10 batlanim in the Bet HaKnesset. Okay? That's why? For the minyan of the tefillah, as we already said, that was Rashi. Okay, fine. Now, there's other shitot in this. Okay? There's other shitot, but this is the shita of Rashi that has to do with tefillah. Okay? Next. Right? Be'elu amru magdimin velo ma'achrim. We said that on these things, you're going to be magdim, aval lo ma'achrim. So says the Gemara, my time, what's reasoning? Amar Rabbi Amar ben Shmuel, it says Rabbi Shmuel, it says in the pasuk, velo ya'avor. We already learned this. You remember? When we learned, where do we learn this? Velo ya'avor? After 15. Where do we learn it? Bet Amud Aleph. We asked, Ve'ema shitzar v'shivsar. Why don't you say it's the 16th and the 17th of Adar? And so the Gemara, velo ya'avor. This is what we see also, velo ya'avor. Okay? No, velo ya'avor, towards the bottom of the Gemara. It says how do we know that we're not going to count days for years, but rather we do months for years? Which means, how do we know that the year is not according to the amount of the days, which is going to be the 365 days, right? But rather it has to do with 12 months, and we go according to the months, right? From Aleph to Nisan to Aleph to Nisan. Shneimar, but it says in the pasuk, lechodshei hashana. You always count according to the months and not according to the days. Okay, which means that you're not going to count according to the days, right? Of the days of the year, for example, of the solar calendar, but rather whatever is left over. But you always do it according to the months. Says Rabbanan de Kesareh in the name of Rabbi Abba. And they said, how do we know that we don't count hours for the months? You always count the month, the days, but you're not going to count the hours. Meaning, basically, what's more important? You're talking about the days or the months. So we always go by the days are in the month. But once you get into the months, you finish the month, you already go to the year. That's it. You don't care about anymore about the days. The days are finished. That's it. The same thing with the hours. You don't look into hours, right? You don't say 1 second. Technically speaking, in order for it to be a new month, it's not only just the December 1st, right? Or obviously we're talking about in the Hebrew, right? But let's say that December 1st, it has to be also the amount of hours into, no. That's it. You understand? We don't, right? We don't go according to the hours. But we just said the time of Atzeh Kohanim, Tisha B'Av, Chagiga ve'akel, me'acherin ve'lo makdimin. We always do it later, right? But not earlier. Says the Gemara, Tisha B'Av, what is the reason why Tisha B'Av we would push it off and not make it earlier? Says the Gemara, very easy. You know why? No, not because of the Mashiach. Not because of that. You know why, right? Very simple. The Gemara says we never want to bring a Puranut earlier. If it's already, we want to push it off. We don't want Puranut. Understand? So therefore, push it off. We don't want it. Okay? Chagiga ve'akel. What about chagiga and akel? Remember, chagiga is korban chagiga, right? So if Yom Tov comes out on Shabbat, so there's korban chagiga. So now what happens is you don't bring it on Shabbat, right? So there's a shalmei chagiga or mitzvat hakel. Hakel is going to be on the 7th year, when you have motzeh, right? Motzeh, the concept of motzeh, Shemitah, we're going to have the akel, where the king goes into the Bet HaMikdash, he's going to be the Torah. Because it's still, I mean, the reason why we don't do it earlier and we have to do it later is because it didn't come yet the time of the chiyuv. Okay, it didn't come the time of the chiyuv. Okay, fine. Tana, we learned in the Braita, chagiga v'chol zman chagiga me'acharim. We just said that chagiga and all the time of the chagiga, we're going to push it off. Bishlema chagiga, I understand chagiga, tinikle b'shabbata, but if it comes out on Shabbat, me'acharin la. Right? What are we going to do? We're going to push it off. Levata Shabbat until after Shabbat. Ela zman chagiga ma'hi. What does it mean then the zman chagiga? I understand the korban. Korban, don't bring it on Shabbat. Bring it on Sunday. I understand. But what do you mean the zman chagiga? Amrovoshi achi kama. This is what I'm saying. Chagiga b'Shabbat. Chagiga, we come and we're going to do it. That means if Yom Tov comes out on Shabbat, right? So he says ve'olat riyah, and to do the olat riyah, afilu b'Yom Tov, even on Yom Tov. The zman chagiga me'acharin. The time of the chagiga, we're going to push it off. Okay, which means like this. Remember that every single chag, a person has to bring what is called an olat re'iyah and a shalmeh chagiga. Olat re'iyah is a korban olah. Olah is a burnt offering. But the korban olat re'iyah is when you come to lira'eh, you come to see or be seen in the Bet HaMikdash. That's called olat re'iyah. Then you have another concept. What's the other concept? What we have is called the shalmeh chagiga, shlamim. The shlamim, you eat from it. The korban olah is completely consumed on the mizbeach. The shlamim, you come and you have meat. So you bring a korban shlamim to the Bet HaMikdash. It's called shalmei chagiga. And then afterwards, you eat. Bon appetit. How are you going to have meat right in the Bet HaMikdash? You have to write in Yerushalayim. You bring a korban, you eat from the shlamim. Baruch Hashem, al atak. Yeah, you're able to enjoy. Okay? So that's called the shalmei chagiga. So you have the shalmei chagiga and olat riyah. So he says, so Mani, who is this? Who is this that says that you're not allowed to bring an olat riyah on Yom Tov? So he says it's Bet Shammai. It's Shitat Bet Shammai. It's Ram, as we learned in the Mishnah Beitza. Bet Shammai says maybe in shlamim Yom Tov and somchim aleim. You're allowed to bring a shalmei chagiga on Yom Tov because these are also eaten by the kohanim and eaten by the baalim, by the owners. So you're allowed to bring it on Yom Tov. Why? Because you're going to eat. As long as you're eating, it's okay. Then somchim aleim, but you're not allowed to do semicha. You're not allowed to lean on that. That's an isur d'Rabbanan. Avalo olot, but you're not allowed to bring a korban olah. What's korban olah? A burnt offering. Why are you not allowed to bring a burnt offering on Yom Tov? What's going to happen? Yes. Why are you not allowed to bring a burnt offering on Yom Tov? Because if you no, because a burnt offering you don't eat anything. Ah, okay, that's what you're saying the opposite way, right? Because you're not eating anything. The fact that you're not eating anything, you're not allowed to bring it on Yom Tov. Avalo olot. Bet Hillel omrim. Bet Hillel says mevi'in shlamim ve'olot v'somchim aleim. You are allowed to bring korban shlamim, olat riyah, and you're not allowed to do semicha. So therefore, you see that this is a machloka between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Rava comes and he says, chagiga kol zman chagiga me'acharim tfei lo. Says that when it says the chagiga, all the time, all the regel until Yom Tov Acharon shel regel me'acharim, you're allowed to bring it. But more than that, you're not allowed to. It's not what we already learned in the Mishnah. Mi shelo chag b'Yom Tov rishon shel chag chogeg ve'olech kol regel kulo. Imagine right now you didn't bring a korban chagiga on the first day of Yom Tov. You came to Eretz Yisrael. You came to the Bet HaMikdash, but you didn't bring a korban yet. If you didn't bring it the first day, you have all the rest of the days of Yom Tov to bring it. That's called tashlumin. Yeah, you're allowed to pay back. How do you pay back? You didn't bring it the first day, you could bring it all the rest of the days. But he says the Yom Tov Acharon, right? Which one?
It's not considered.
What do you mean
It's not considered the korban itself.
It is. Mi shelo chag b'Yom Tov rishon shel chag. Obviously not lechatchila. I'm saying obviously lechatchila you're not gonna, but it's okay. There's no problem. Chogeg ve'olech kol haregel kulo. V'Yom Tov Acharon shel chag, and even on the last day of Yom Tov Chag. Avar haregel, but once it's already avar zmano, batel korbano. Avar haregel ve'lo chag, eno chayav b'achriyuto. Yeah, nigmar hasipur. That's it. Chalas. It finished. You didn't bring it on the proper time. That's it. So on the first day, you're supposed to bring it on the first day. You didn't bring it the first day, you have the entire chag to bring it. But if you didn't bring it the entire chag, kaddish. That's it. You lost out. Ravashi comes and says, chagiga v'chol zman chagiga me'acharin, v'afilu ba'atzeret. Chagiga, and all the time of chagiga, you're going to be me'ached, and even on Shavuot, techad yomah, that it's one day, me'acharin. You're allowed to do it afterwards. There's tashlumim after Shavuot. It's not as we learned in the Mishnah. Modim. No. 7 days after. or 6 days after. That's the whole question. Modim shimcha latzeret v'yom b'Shabbat, shiyom tavoach achar Shabbat, which was basically they're saying that Bet Hillel are going to be modim that if Shavuot comes out on Shabbat, the Yom Tavoach, which is the day that they bring the Korban, is on Sunday. So it comes out that even though Shavuot, and by the way, that's the reason why after Shavuot there is no Tachanunim for another, whether 6 days, 7 days, or the whole thing, because we're in Chutz Haaretz, So what happens? Because the concept is that right afterwards, right, we have Tashlumin. What do you mean Tashlumin? You could have brought the Korban. If there was Bet HaMikdash, you could have brought the Korban. But if not, there's no reason. Why don't you do Tachlunim the next day? Well, you do Siyum Masechet every single day until you get to the, I don't know, Siyum Masechet. Yeah, Siyum Masechet is, you didn't want.
I was thinking, is it because of me?
Of course it was because of you. Yeah? So what happened? So therefore we come and we say, right, that even Shavuot, even though it's 1 day, you have 7 days to pay back after Tashlumim. Right? No, sorry, wrong one. Rabbi came and he was notea netiya. He planted a netiya on Purim, which means he planted something. He did an isur melacha. Okay, he planted, huh? I couldn't hear you. A shoot is a sapling. It's a tree.
The real word, Rabbi. The real word comes now.
Yes. Okay. Lachatz bikrona shel tzipori. Right? Hey Amud Bet. And another thing that he did was, right, is to do with the ta'anit, Lachatz bikrona shel tzipori. He came in on the Yom HaShuk, right, of the city of Tzipori. He came in Befaresia. He comes where Mamash bikrona is where the kronot are where the wagons and all these things are. He went on Shiva Tammuz. So he went and he started washing himself, right, where everybody's coming, right? I mean, it's not like a hiding. He went in. He washed himself to show everybody I'm allowed to take a shower on Shiva Tammuz. Okay? So we bikesh la'akor Tisha B'Av. And he wanted to uproot Tisha B'Av, velo hodulo, but the rabbis didn't agree with it. He wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av, but the rabbis didn't agree. Chaval. No, he said chaval. He says, no. Amar lefanav says in front of Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Abba bar Zabda, Rabbi, look, what, you really think he was going to take off Tisha B'Av? Ela Tisha B'Av shechal yo b'Shabbat. It was Tisha B'Av that fell out on Shabbat, and they pushed it off le'achar Shabbat. They pushed it off to after Shabbat to Sunday. So Amar Rabbi, Rabbi says, 1 second, if you already pushed it off for next year. Meaning, if you already pushed it off, so push it off. When are you going to do Tisha B'Av next year? Right? We pushed it off. It was on Shabbat. You push it off to Sunday. Instead of pushing it Sunday, push it off to next year. That's it. Velo dulo chachamim. The chachamim said no. So so he went and Rabbi Elazar called on him, right? On himself. Tovim hashnayim min ha'echad. It's always better 2 than 1. Why? Because if I was by myself, I would have heard it and I heard it wrong. But now that I have you with me, now we're 2. 2 heads are better than 1. Right? Why are 2? Why? Because now we were able to understand exactly what was going on. Okay? So says the Gemara, 1 second. So the last part we analyzed, because it doesn't make sense that he was going to uproot Tisha B'Av. We answered, no, it wasn't really uprooting Tisha B'Av. It was fell on Shabbat. He pushed it off. We wanted to push off the next year. We didn't do it. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the beginning. The Rebbe, how did he start planting a tree on Purim? Tani Rav Yosef says, Simcha u mishteh b'yom tov. It says in the Megillah, Simcha u'mishteh v'yom tov. What does that mean? Simcha melamed shasurim be'espet. So it says Simcha. What does that mean? You're not allowed to do eulogy. Simcha. Okay? Now, mishteh melamed shasur betanit. You're not allowed to fast on Purim. Purim, you have to eat. Right? Remember that. You have to eat on Purim. You have to. Eat, drink, right? You have to. You're not allowed to do ta'anit. Right? Right? There's another question. Right? V'yom tov. What about Yom Tov? Melamed shasur b'asiyam melacha. So it comes here. Rav Yosef comes and he brings up Raita. When it says the words in the Megillah Yom Tov, it's mamash Yom Tov. You're not allowed to work. Ela Rebbe bara beisarava echinata bechamei sanata. So it says no, you're right. How did he do it? No problem. Rebbe, he was a barar beisa. Okay, which means he lived in a city of the 14th. So when did he plant the tree? He planted the tree on the 15th, because that's not his Purim, that's Shushan Purim. So you're allowed to do it on Shushan Purim. So says the Gemara, any is it so? But Rebbe b'Tevedi ava. Rebbe, where did Rebbe live? Rebbe lived in Tiberias, Tiberia. And Tiberia was a city which is Mukevet Choma Imot Yeshua Binu. Okay? So exactly, we're going to speak about it. Ela but rather, right? Rebbe Bar Chameis Rava. Really the opposite. Rebbe was of the 15th. So when did he plant? On the 14th. So says the Gemara, one second. Now you just answered up Rebbe, yeah? So one more time. Rebbe lived in Tiberia. Tiberia is on the 15th. And when are you going to do it? You're going to do it on the 14th. So says the Gemara, says the Gemara, the question that Mordechai just asked. 1 second. Is it that simple that Tiberia is going to be Mukav Choma Mimot Yeshua Binun? In Chizkiah came and read 2 days in Tiberia, 14th and the 15th, right? And he had a doubt. Was it Mukav Choma from days of Yeshua Binun? In love or if not? So says the Gemara, Lechizkiah Mesapkale, Chizkiah Resafek, LeRebbi Pshitale. For Rebbe, it was pashut for him that it was already Mukav Choma Mimot Yeshua Binun, and therefore he did it only on the 15th and not on the 14th. So basically, it comes out that there's a machloket about Tiberia, right? Some people did 2 days of Tiberia because we weren't sure, and Rebbe did it only on the 15th. So says the Gemara, was it so simple, right? Even if it was Pshitale, Mishari is it permitted? B'aktiv, it's written Megillah Tani, et Yom Arba Asar, et Yom Chamisha Asar, Yome Pure Inun, which means there's a Megillah Tanit. Remember, we spoke about Megillah Tanit and Masechet Tanit, I don't know how many times, right? Megillat Tanit, right? So that's the question. Which one is the Yikar? Okay, so now the Megillat Tanit, which we already learned in Masechet Tanit. We spoke about Megillat Tanit, I don't know how many times. So Megillat Tanit, we said, there are days which are Purim. What are the days of Purim? 14th and the 15th. The Lo Mitzvah Ben, you're not allowed to do Hesped. The Amar Rav and Rav says, Lo Nitzchal Elesor Zeh Shel Zeh, V'Shel Zeh, V'Shel Zeh Shel Zeh, which means that they're both the suit and everything. Meaning, even if we live in the diaspora, which according to everybody, we don't have walled cities from Yeshua Binu. Because even if Columbus came and he discovered America in 1480, it doesn't matter. You know, this didn't exist. But even if there was, they didn't have it. But we don't have walled cities. But what are we doing? We're going to come and we're going to do, right, what? Everything. Also on the 15th, we don't do Tanit. We don't do Espedim. We don't do on the 15th, Shampurim, but it doesn't matter. Hanemile, one of these words, Be'espedu Tanit, only in Esped and Tanit. Aval Melacha, Yom Echavetulu. Which means whichever day it is, it's only Melacha is 1 day. You're not allowed to work 1 day. The other day you're allowed to work. There's no, according to everybody. That means even in Megillah Tanit that you're not allowed to do Ta'aniyot and Espedim and all that. No. That's only that. But to do with the work is 1 day. So it says any is it so, right? Whichever day is your day, 14th or 15th, right? Whichever day. Which one? No. It's only to do with Esper and Tanit. What's the effect? Any is it so? He says Rav once saw somebody that he was planting, right, seeds, right, of flax on Purim. Velati, and he cursed him. Velot samach kitne, and it didn't grow. So says the Gemara, no, hatam bar yamahi. He says it's mashma over there that it was on the same day. So therefore, since he planted on the same day, that's why he cursed him, right? But if it wasn't Purim for him, right, it's not a suit. You're allowed to do it. So the Gemara is going to answer. And he says no. Rabba, the son of Rabba says, even if it's the same day of Purim, right? They only accept it upon themselves. Esped and Ta'anit. Melacha lo kabli olai. Nobody does. Meaning melacha, nobody accepted upon themselves now. Nowadays you're allowed to work. Why? Says the Gemara, the Meikar Aktiv was in the first time. It's written there in the Megillah in Perek Tet Yutet, right? Chapter 9, Pasuk, verse 19. It says Simcha u'mishteh v'yom tov. Ulvasof of 2-3 psukim later in Kavbet it says la'asot otam yemei mishteh v'simcha ve'ilu yom tov lo kativ. Meaning in the Megillah itself, the first time around it said Yom Tov. The second 3 psukim later it didn't say Yom Tov. So therefore, at the beginning they wanted to make it into Yom Tov, right? They wanted mamash Yom Tov. You're not allowed to work, but they didn't do it at the end. So ever since they didn't do it at the end, you're allowed to work. So mitzad halacha, you're allowed to work. He still cursed them, but that's what the Gemara is going to ask. So 1 second. So if you're allowed to work, so why did Rav curse the guy out? Why is he cursing the guy out? So says the Gemara, Dvarim hamutarim v'acharim nagu b'hen isur hava, be'atre derebi lo nahug, which means it's something which is forbidden, but there's a minhag to be oseh. Meaning certain times there's something which is actually mutar min adin. Right? There's a gader. There's a Tisha B'Av. What does that mean? Tisha B'Av, mitzad the din, technically speaking, you're allowed to work, not allowed to work, you get into after chatzot, before chatzot. But if there's already minhag, minhag is minhag. If there's a minhag not to work, you're not allowed to work. So he comes and he says, it was something which was mutar min adin, but everybody else was noheg and isul. In the city of Rebbe, nobody worked on Purim. So the fact that this guy comes and he starts working on Purim, he cursed him out, and that's it, and then it didn't grow. If you want, you could answer, Lo'olam nahu, really be'emet, it was a minhag not to do, right, to melacha on Purim. But Rebbe came and he did plant. What did he plant? A netiyah shel simcha. Netiyah shel simcha, you're allowed to plant on Purim. Kiditzran, as we learned in the Mishnah, right, this also we learned in Ta'anit, Yud Bet, Amud Bet. Im avru elu velo na'anu. If these days passed and they still weren't answered, you're going to minimize in doing business, whether it's building and planting things, and getting married, or the real marriage, which means the chuppah. We already learned binyan is binyan shel simcha, netiyah shel simcha. What does that mean? Binyan is mamash a building of simcha. Netiyah shel simcha. What is a binyan shel simcha? They used to build houses for their children in order to live right beside them. Right? And then the father always used to have his sons beside him. Nowadays it's opposite. Nowadays usually you have your girls right beside you, and the boys they go with the in-laws. That's what usually happens nowadays. There's always a nakal, right? But usually that's what happens, right? But in the olden days, you always had usually the boys beside you, right? They used to continue the family heritage and the work, and they used to do everything. You know, that was the continuation. That's what they used to do in the olden days. So he says, what is netiyah shel simcha? If you're going to plant a beautiful tree which has a lot of shade, right? So therefore, that's why it's called an avurneki of melachim, of like kings. Okay, nekuda. Now we're going to go back to the Gemara. We're almost finished. Gufa. We already mentioned. Chizkiah used to read in Tveria, Barbeisa v'Chamesa. He used to read in Tveria on the 14th and 15th. Savka was yet a doubt if it was Miukev Chomam or not. So the Gemara, Savka leminta the Tveria. Do you have a doubt by Tveria? The active it's written. Raka is Tveria. So therefore, there it's talking about right the cities of Naphtali, and there they're talking about cities that have walls, walled cities, and Rakat is Tveria. So answers the Gemara. That's the reasoning why he has a safai. One of the walls is the sea, meaning Tveria is only surrounded by 3 walls, right? Just like Surfside. Surfside, Bal Harbor, Bay Harbor, what happens? We have 3 walls and 1 sea. Okay, that's the exact same thing. You understood? So because of that, that's the doubt. Is it considered a walled city or not considered a walled city? Why? So what's the doubt? But it's not a wall. At the end of the day, it's a sea. It's not a wall. The Tanya we learned in a Braita, a walled city that has a wall. Remember, any type of a field that you sell in a walled city, you have 1 year to redeem it. After that 1 year, Kaddish. Every other field, you could leave it for 50 years, comes Yovel, it's back to you. Here, a walled city of 1 year. After that 1 year, you lost your rights to it. That's it. So when it says, Ashelo Choma, Velo Shubigar, that's talking about that it's not that the Choma is the roofs, which means that it has to be Mamash, right? Mukaf Choma, but not that the walls, meaning the roofs of the houses, is the wall, right? Saviv. Tveria, that's comes to exclude Tveria, Shiyama Chomata, that the Yam is the Choma of Tveria. So says the Gemara, to do with Batei Choma, you're right. To do with Batei Choma, cities of walled cities, to do with selling, buying, and selling, it's not a doubt. When is a doubt? To do with Yamika Megillah. My prazim, my mukafim. What is considered a scattered city, and what is considered a walled city? It's written by Mikra Megillah. Mishum dehavu miglu. Is it because it's revealed? And here this is revealed. So Haninami miglu. So also Tveria is revealed. Or maybe Mishum dehani mignu, because they are protected from their enemy. And the prazim are not protected from their enemies. Hanami mignia, this is also protected, right? Why? Because through the sea it's protected. Which means if somebody wants to attack, they have to have an entire navy. Not everyone had navies, so it was much more difficult to conquer, right? You understand? Sometimes they thought it was easier to conquer from the navy, right? How did the British and everything? How did they get into right? Ravasi. So it comes out, by the way, that because of that, by to do with Arei Choma, we don't have a doubt. It's not considered a walled city. But to do with Mikra Megillah, we have a doubt. So because of that, until today, we still have a doubt to Tferia what it is. Right? Ravasi Kari Megillah v'Utzal b'Arbei Tzal. Ravasi read the Megillah in Utzal, which is the name of the city, in the 14th and the 15th. The Mesafkele, because the same thing, he had a doubt whether it's Mukev Choma Mot Shubinun or not. Ika de Amar, and some people say Amar Ravasi, Hai Utzal the Bet Binyamin. This Utzal from the Bet Binyamin, it was Mukev Choma from the Yoshua bin Nun. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Kiavina Talia, when I was a young child, right? Amina Milta, I said something, the Shailna Lesabye, that I asked one of the Zekenim, right? Vishtachach Kavati, and I found it was like me, Baba Mudale. And what is that? Hamat and all the different names of the city. So Be'ezrat Hashem will continue tomorrow morning.